Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Co-op Podcast, episode 247. And Mr. Richard Bailey is away today at, an event in Las Vegas. And I'm sure he's going to let everyone know a bit more about that, whenever he gets back and everything. He's going to have a lot of content. And Dana is at Tribeca Film Festival, and Max is out doing Max things. He's being a superstar and everything like that. But I am here with Mr. Jake James Luger. How are you doing, JJ?
I'm doing good, Gary. This was a slow week. This was kind of a blasé week, to be honest with you, even though we had games come out.
Yeah, it was a very slow week. I think a lot of companies are kind of holding their cards for E3 at this point because we're under 2 months away from that. So yeah, I think it's probably going to be a slow month or so leading into E3.
I agree, definitely.
Yeah, but there are a few things to talk about, and we will get to that. But first, we're gonna get straight into what we've been playing this week. So I'm gonna hand it over to you, Mr. Jake James Lugo. Let us know what you've been up to and what you've been playing.
So I've been doing a couple different things. I actually posted up some new reviews for Nintendo Switch games, indies to be exact, on the website now that you guys could check out. I posted up a review for Floor Kids, which I think is a really cool game as far as rhythm-based games go. If you love hip-hop music, if you have any sort of, resonance or kind of background with urban life or anything, like if you grew up in the city and stuff, that game will speak to you. Because originally I used to live in New York. I used to be close to the Bronx. So there's an element of that, that kind of resonates with a lot of the stuff that I saw in this game. It's a really fun breakdancing / rhythm game that I think a lot of people should check out when they get the chance. The other one that I also checked out was Brakes Are for Losers, which is abbreviated BAFL. It's a racing game, very simple. Didn't really enjoy it that much, but again, the review is up on the website right now, as well as also the Adventure Pals, which is another indie game that kind of acts a little bit kind of an action platformer / RPG that's really happy-go-lucky, but has a fun, twisted sense of humor. If you like Adventure Time, or if you watch that show or anything similar to it, that game will speak to you as well. All interesting indie games that are on Nintendo Switch. We've been trying to post up more Switch game reviews on the website, so we got a couple there for you guys with more to come very, very soon. Besides that, I also went back to playing some more Final Fantasy 15. I actually got a chance to finish episode Ignis. I think I talked about it last week, if I'm not mistaken, or at some point.
Yeah,
but I finished episode Ignis and I went back and I did some of the extra stuff. Great DLC, if I didn't already say it beforehand. I'm looking forward to some of the other extra content that we're going to get in the future for that game. I still think that game is epic in a lot of regards as far as, role-playing games are concerned. But we'll leave that for a turn-based someday that we'll talk about. In addition to that, a couple of things I want to mention real brief, to kind of tease some stuff. Later this week into next week, we got some big unboxing and impressions videos that we're going to be posting up on the website, as well as also some other interesting interviews that I have coming down the pipeline. I got a game director, which I can't reveal yet, but for an upcoming game down the line later this year that I'm going to be talking with. We're going to be talking about his game and a whole bunch of other interesting stuff related to it, as well as also a new TK Spotlight that I have in the works with some cool people that I'm going to be chatting with. A lot of exciting stuff to get really kind of, really look forward to.
Awesome. That's a lot of stuff right there. But yeah, sounds like a good week though. As for me, not that much going on. Of course, I've been playing some Overwatch, and they just added an elimination competitive mode, a 6v6 elimination mode.
I saw that. I heard it was good.
Yeah, it's good. And it's people are saying they like it more because it's a lot more balanced and it forces people to play like other heroes usually. Because the problem with normal competitive is that people one trick a lot and they just play one hero when sometimes the situation doesn't call for that hero to be played. So in this elimination mode, like, once you've won a round with a hero, you have to use another hero. So it kind of forces people to use other characters and get good with them. So people are saying they really love that. And besides that, I've been playing some Final Fantasy 12 on PC still. I'm really, really loving that game. I don't think I appreciated it enough the first time I played it, like 10, 11 years ago when it first came out, or whenever it was. I think it was longer than that.
It was a long time ago on PS2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was like 11, 12 years ago. But yeah, I'm appreciating it a lot more now. And I don't know. It might be coming. It might be rising on my list of Final Fantasy games, like my ranking. It might be rising up a little bit,
Interesting.
but I'm gonna have to figure out what my list actually is one day. Maybe we can do that on turn-based
We
sometime.
could do a revised slash re-updated version of our top 5 Final Fantasy games or top 5 RPGs at one point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be a good turn-based topic. But yeah, loving that. Also, um, before I get to the main thing, Monster Hunter. I played some Monster Hunter today with my friend Ramiz Quadri, who has been on the show before. And the thing is, like, we were both kind of starting the game at the same time, and I have some complaints here because the game itself seems like it's fun. Seems like a lot of fun. I like the idea of just going out hunting monsters and the whole RPG aspect of it, collecting items, crafting, upgrading your equipment, and everything. I love that aspect of it. My problem is that this was kind of promoted as like a big online game and everything, but we found it so difficult to actually play the game together. Like we were playing for like 2 hours, and I think we played together for a total of like 20 to 30 minutes or something
That's
like
the
that.
first I've ever heard that before of anybody that played this game. That's interesting.
Yeah, like because I'm hoping that this is just because we're just starting the game and that it like later on it gets easier to connect with people.
Do you have like a hunter rank? Do you remember your hunter rank in there? Because I know like there's a lot of people that are higher ranked that you could get a match or a game going like super easy.
I'm not sure what my hunter rank is, but we're basically doing like the first three missions or something.
That's
But it's
probably
like,
why. That's probably exactly why. Because speaking from personal experience, because after playing it for like so long and stuff, there's a lot more people now at this point on PSN that play that game, and they're doing a lot of like the Elder Dragon quest and stuff. And like, there's always people looking for like 2 or 3 people.
so I guess it's just a case of we need to get much further before we can easily connect with each other and run missions and stuff.
You know what's an
But
easy way to deal with that I found? Use the SOS. Like when you're on a hunt with like 1 or 2 people, if you put out the SOS, you can immediately have other people that'll join your game. Like
yeah,
that's another way of doing that.
that's how we actually connected. Like the one time we did get to connect in a mission, that's how we did it. But then the next mission that we tried to do, because it was an expedition, it wouldn't let us play together or something. And we had to actually do that expedition to get further, and that took us a while as well because we had to find a camp or something. So yeah, it was just like frustrating. We were in like a party chat, just talking to each other while we were playing solo, which defeats the purpose a little bit. But hopefully next time we'll have a much more pleasurable experience and we'll actually be able to connect together and play as we intended. But yeah, the game has potential. I just hope that it gets a lot better.
They got an update recently too. They got a whole new quest for people that are towards like the end game stuff, a new Elder Dragon to hunt
Yeah, I hear there's a lot of like events and stuff that get added as well.
for free, which is cool.
That's cool. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check out some of that stuff. I need to get my rank up a little bit. So yeah. And of course, I've been playing the game that everyone's talking about at the moment, and that is God of War. Now, I will actually be reviewing this game at some point, but yeah, I'm sure everyone's further in the game than I am by now. But man, this game is incredible. Like from like every aspect of it is so polished, and what I really love about it is how the story is told. Like you're never taken away from the game, that the actual game mechanics and stuff. Like everything takes place within the game, and I like how subtle it is with regards to the storytelling. It doesn't always tell you what's actually happening or what they're actually intending to do. It just kind of unfolds, and then you begin to understand more of it as you play. The connection between Kratos and Atreus is done very well. I like how he's being very stern on him, to try and mold him and make him, become more of a man. He's kind of trying to shape him into a man, but at the same time, he cares a lot for him and he wants to be able to show what he feels for his son, but like he has to kind of, he's Kratos at the end of the day. He has to be stern There's one scene that I thought was really well done, where there's like a sunset and the sun is just kind of admiring it. He's looking at it, paying attention to it and everything. And Kratos, he wants to like, touch him and, have like an intimate moment with his son, but he stops himself and then he's like, come on, we have to keep moving. Like just little things like that. Just really, it really like shows the true characters. And I just think the whole thing is really well done. As for action, um, I know Tony had issues with the default button layout, but I think it would be very tough to go back to the default God of War controls where you
like the old school God of War 3 style type of stuff.
Yeah, where you have to use the face buttons for the attacks and stuff. Like, I think that's going to be very difficult in this game because you have enemies coming at you from all sides, and you have to be able to like adapt on the fly, and it's easier to use the triggers, I think, for that, especially with the way the targeting works and stuff like that. I like that, the main weapon is the axe. And I like that, it's got the Thor effect on it where you throw it and it comes back and everything. But also, you can't just spam the axe all the time, like, because there's different enemies that have to be taken out in different ways. So sometimes you got to brawl it out and use your fists for some enemies. And I'm guessing there's going to be more weapons to use later on because I just got to a point where I'm able to upgrade my equipment and stuff like that. And it looks like the axe isn't actually the only thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else Kratos will be able to use.
Now, I got a question, Gary, because this has been talked about a lot on social media, especially Twitter, that I've been reading. A lot of people are saying right now, based on what they've played, if they finished it or not, that this is the game to beat for Game of the Year thus far. Do you feel like, at least from what you've seen, even though you haven't finished it, do you think it's like reaching that point? Do you feel like this is the game thus far that people should be playing in 2018?
Well, when I think of games that have already come out, there's been Kuni, uh, there's been Monster Hunter. What else has there been? Yeah, I think so far.
As far as like Game of the Year contenders, there hasn't been a lot just yet.
Yeah, so far it's definitely this game so far, but we do have a lot more to come. But thinking of what is to come, I think this is going to be a heavy contender throughout the entire year. Obviously we got Spider-Man coming as well.
And we got Red Dead. That's another one.
Yeah, Spider-Man and Red Dead. Those are probably going to be two contenders. So yeah, but I think this is a strong candidate, definitely for sure. I think Santa Monica, they've really matured. Like their style of game making and how they presented this is really matured. Like they've definitely progressed as a company, in terms of their development and everything. So I want to hand it to them. This is an incredible game. It's one of those games
high. The reviews have been like ridiculously high, like especially on Metacritic. I think it's got a 94 right now, average.
Yeah, straight 10s across the board. So yeah, definitely this is going to be one of the games that's talked about at the end of the year for sure, without a doubt. When do you plan on picking it up, by the way?
I'm hoping to play it very soon because the more I see about it, the more I hear people talk about it, the more I want to play it. And from the little bits that I have seen of it, the game looks just as epic as the older God of War games. And I'm really curious about it. And again, hearing you talk about it, hearing other people talk about it as well, it's like, okay, I think I need to find some time to really play this game.
Yeah, man. And it's one of those games that's hard to put down as well. Like you just continuously progressing and it's like one thing after another. And it's like it's hard to get to a point where you're exhausted and you're like, okay, I'm gonna turn it off now. It's hard to actually get to that point because it just keeps going, and it keeps you locked in. So it's one of those games. I'm not sure how long the story is meant to be. I can't remember. I think Tony mentioned, but I can't remember the number he gave. But yeah, definitely a great game. I recommend everybody with a PS4 go out and get this game. It's incredible. It's definitely it's one of those generation defining games. So,
really? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, man. So definitely get that, everyone. Definitely deserves the praise that it's been getting. But yeah, that was my week of gaming. So we're going to get straight into the topics. And like I said, there's not too much to really talk about. The first thing we're going to discuss, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Jake James Lugo to tell us more about. But basically, there was some new content for Star Wars Battlefront 2. So, JJ, let us know all about that and your thoughts on it.
Yeah, now I think I talked about this a little bit on the previous podcast or the one right before, or right before PAX East that I was on, because I know I had skipped one episode because of PAX East. But basically, Star Wars Battlefront 2, in my opinion, is kind of dead. It's kind of dead and it's over for that game because of a couple different reasons. Number one, I think the perception of the game has really been irreparably damaged for a number of different reasons, specifically the microtransaction stuff and the whole way that it was presented and the kind of almost predatory way that the game's progression system was. However, there's still new content coming out for Battlefront 2, including the new one that came out. I believe it's on Tuesday. If it's out already, it's the Ewok Hunt. That's basically a take on like a survival type of mode where you're playing as stormtroopers and you have the Ewoks that are coming after you on Endor. And whenever a stormtrooper is killed in the game, that player, again, if it's controlled by a player, gets turned into an Ewok and can hunt the other stormtroopers with the rest of the Ewoks. Now, in premise, this sounds pretty cool. However, it's a limited time event. And I think that's what kills the momentum of it. And that's what, for me personally, gives me almost no reason to go back to this game. And I've said it a couple times where I felt like this game is really just been, the momentum's almost been a sudden stop. There's almost no reason to go back to Star Wars Battlefront 2, even with the Last Jedi content that was included in it, as well as also we're supposed to be getting some Clone Wars related content with some updates, including Obi-Wan Kenobi and General Grievous as extra heroes. And I'm guessing that's going to be Clone Wars era Obi-Wan Kenobi, not the New Hope era. And that kind of sucks, to be totally honest with you. As a Star Wars fan and as someone that's followed this game and has reviewed it on the website and has checked out a lot of the content that's been released for it, ever since it was first announced, it's a damn shame because it's been such a fall from grace for Battlefront 2 with the way that everything played out. So that's really pretty much the content that's come out. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get more as the months go on, especially, as more Star Wars related stuff comes out. Because remember, we got Solo, a Star Wars story coming out in May. I would be pretty sure that they're probably going to do some type of stuff for that, to celebrate that. However, I'm just not down with it right now. I got to the point where I even told Gary before we recorded this show that I deleted it off my console because there's no reason for me to play right now. It's not fun. The progression doesn't feel like as really much has changed. There's still such a disparage between the players that have been playing for a while or spent money prior to the updates that they're ridiculously overpowered, as well as also there's such a steep hill to climb just to get a little bit ahead that it's just not fun anymore.
Yeah, it sounds like they really dropped the ball with this game. And what I was going to ask you was, because this, like, Star Wars Battlefront, it's been like, a big brand when it comes to, when you think of Star Wars and video games, there were Battlefront was a big brand back in the day. Like, people loved that game and they did an okay job. EA did an okay job when they brought out Battlefront, the first Battlefront. But they really dropped the ball with this Battlefront 2. So I wanted to ask you, do you think that they could ever redeem themselves with a Battlefront 3, say in 2 years' time or whatever? Like, could they bring it back?
I think, honestly, if it was a different team, if it wasn't done by EA, or if we had other games that really kind of, scratch that itch for a Star Wars game. But I feel like Battlefront 2, the name has just been so irreparably messed up at this point with everything that's been reported and the way that EA went about putting out this game. It just is not that great right now. It really sucks. I feel like, and I think I said this on the previous episode when we talked a little bit about it, that right now the best thing for EA or just for Disney / the Star Wars brand to do is to go to a different style of game. And I said X-Wing / TIE Fighter, like the Rogue Squadron series. I feel like we haven't gotten a flight game based on the Star Wars universe in quite some time, ever since Jedi Starfighter or the Rogue Squadron series, I think was on GameCube at one point. And even, granted, we have the flying stuff in Battlefront and Battlefront 2, but I feel like that's the type of style of game that we need to get away from the whole ground combat and all the stuff that Battlefront 2 is known for, or go to something like Knights of the Old Republic. Again, since EA has the license to use for Star Wars games, why not go back to BioWare and ask to see if maybe they can make that happen? There's got to be a reason to, and I don't think that the people at EA or any of the people that have worked on the Star Wars games are that stupid that they don't know that the public wants a new Knights of the Old Republic game. I'm not talking about the Old Republic. I mean Knights of the Old Republic 3 or something similar, something different. I mean, granted, a lot of us felt we were going to get that with the Amy Hennig Star Wars game, but that apparently was a complete disaster. And it sucks because this is such a massive IP. This is such a franchise that people love, that people would be really down for and buy and get 100% behind some of these games. But with the way that things have been going as of late, it's just a shame to see. So
Yeah.
I say go to another developer or go to another style of game to get away from it. And then maybe in 2, 3, maybe 5 years time, then come back to the Battlefront franchise.
Yeah, I honestly think Disney should just give the IP to another publisher.
That's the rumor. That the rumor is that they're shopping around for another developer, another group to take over to make Star Wars games. But again, that's a rumor and that's speculation.
Yeah, I hope it comes to fruition because EA they're just not giving us what we want, and they know that there's a large audience for KOTOR or the X-Wing type of game that you talked about. But they're just not doing it. They're choosing to focus on the shooter stuff, and that's pretty frustrating. So
the crazy thing is to me that seems like such a layup, especially with the new trilogy stuff. Like again, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Why not make a flight game based on the new characters like Poe Dameron and the Resistance? It feels like again that game feels like it should make itself, but there's probably other things that we just don't know. We don't know the details of like how the deal is as far as the IP and what the rights are for EA and other companies. There's a lot of unknowns there. Hopefully at some point we get some clarity, because I know that we've seen some different stories reported on both on Kotaku and a lot of other websites about the whole situation surrounding Battlefront 2, especially with the legal stuff that's been happening in a few countries and I think also in a couple other states here in the US. But again, I say get away from Battlefront for at least a good couple of years.
Yeah, I agree with that. So yeah, that's pretty much all we had on that topic. And yeah, like we're pretty much, getting into the big news stories. This month I'm gonna kind of break it down into different segments. But yeah, pretty much Call of Duty and Battlefront are, the main juices that, came out this week in gaming. So first of all, we're going to talk about Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and the fact that it will not have a single player mode this year because, due to time restraints.
That's a damn shame. Straight up.
Not being able to put it in there. So obviously, whenever you get a Call of Duty game, it's a big deal that, you get your single player and you get the multiplayer. There's some people who just want the multiplayer, and that's fine. But there's a large group of people who do want that single player. So, JJ, what's your thoughts on them not including a single player mode this year?
I mean, it's a damn shame. Like I said, I actually like the single player campaigns for Call of Duty. I reviewed Infinite Warfare and I said that the single player content was the best part of that game. And I really believe that because it was just different. It was interesting. And I felt like Call of Duty was going in a more wacky direction as far as like being more fantastical instead of just limiting itself to modern warfare where, things are grounded in reality. Because granted, the series has always been grounded in reality and to some extent, besides the fictional storytelling and stuff, but going out into space, talking about much more futuristic stuff and really having fun with the concept of Call of Duty rather than just like the visuals of Call of Duty. I felt like that was where we were going to go next. Granted, we had Black Ops 4, or at least the Black Ops like name here and there, but before or after Infinite Warfare. But there's two sides to this. Number one, it's not surprising that Activision would make a move like this because the majority of people that play Call of Duty do not play for the single player. That's been a known fact for many years. They have ridiculous numbers and sales because of that multiplayer. So it makes sense just to offer that multiplayer, which is the reason why people are going to buy this game, or at least the majority of people are going to buy this game. Even though it's going to be a downer for people like me and others out there that love playing through the single player content before diving into multiplayer, but it's a business move and I understand that. But what really sucks here though is that also, which is probably the thing we're going to get into next, is how they're going to handle the multiplayer, which I'm pretty sure you'll detail in just a second. But like, it's a shame for me that we're going to be missing out on that stuff, which is what we've traditionally had for the Call of Duty series for many, many years.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I believe that they're not having it is because they're also coming out with a Modern Warfare 2 remastered because they're also working on that. So do you think that it's because they're trying to work on these two things at the same time where they've cut back on?
Nah, no, to be honest with you, I think that's bollocks. Just to kind of use that word, a random word. But I don't think that's the case at all because what they're doing with Modern Warfare 2 Remaster is exactly what they did with Modern Warfare Remasters, that they're polishing up a lot of the visuals. I get that. And maybe adding in some quality of life stuff, which is what we got with Modern Warfare Remastered. But I mean, there was even a crazy rumor at some point that the Modern Warfare 2 Remaster wasn't going to have the single player content, which I always thought was false. And that seems to be the case. But with this one, I don't think it's that they're losing out resources for having both releases coming up. I think that they'll probably release them together and do the exact same thing that everybody hated with Modern Warfare Remaster, where you have to buy the new game in order to get the old game for a certain period of time and then release it on its own standalone later. But I just think that it's more of a business move because maybe they were looking at numbers and they saw that either the majority of people didn't really play the single player content, over extended amounts of releases for Call of Duty, or maybe with the last couple that came out, that they saw the amount of sales and the way that people talked about it on social media, and the conversation around Call of Duty was always constantly about the multiplayer. And that's what, okay, maybe we could save some dollars here and there and resources to do that. But I don't think that the remaster took that away from anything from the new game.
Yeah. Plus, I think it's been made by a different developer altogether anyway. But interestingly, Modern Warfare 2 is not going to come with the multiplayer. And that's shocking because
that's shocking to me, because straight up, because Modern Warfare Remastered came with the multiplayer and it was a big hit for people.
Yeah. Now, I know that a lot of people preferred the original Modern Warfare multiplayer because it was more balanced and everything. But I have to say that most of my Call of Duty memories, like my fun memories of playing with people, came from Modern Warfare 2 and probably Black Ops 1 as well. So yeah, I mean, I probably wasn't going to get the remaster anyway, but yeah, I think that's going to be a big deal to some people because
we'll know eventually, because again, we're probably going to get another reveal event, kind of like what Activision always does. They'll have a live stream or something. We'll get real answers and details rather than speculation.
Yeah. So getting into more of this and bring in Battlefield as well. So both Call of Duty and Battlefield, because both these news stories came out this week, they are both said to have a battle royale mode. So in the case of Call of Duty, it's going to have battle royale alongside the regular multiplayer modes and everything like that. And Battlefield is also going to have its own battle royale mode. So this is it's, to me, it's very weird to see games this big being that desperate and implementing the mode just because it's so popular right now. I feel like these two games don't need to do this, but I guess they want to try something new and they know that there's probably going to be an audience for it. So what's your thoughts on those two games implementing the battle royale mode from Fortnite, PUBG? And
honestly, I think it's expected. It's not as shocking to me that that they're doing this, because I always felt that it was a matter of time, because especially after Fortnite was doing that, because again, that's a formula right now or style of game that seems to be resonating with a lot of people for one reason or another. And again, I always felt like it was a matter of time that other publishers at some point started doing this. And I think there was maybe some Ubisoft games at one point I remember reading that were going to do something similar, in one of their other franchises. I'm not sure exactly, so don't quote me on that.
The
Division, exactly. So it's just like, again, it was only a matter of time. And I think that not only the guys of PUBG are probably going to be even more mad, because I know that they were a little upset when Fortnite did it, which was really stupid and silly. But if they're probably going to be really pissed off now that, Call of Duty, Battlefield, and others are going to do something similar, because that's a proven formula that works. And obviously competition and other companies are going to use what works, because that's what people want, the consumer wants right now at this point in time. I don't think it's going to change Call of Duty or it's going to change Battlefield. It's just going to be extra stuff on there that's going to give you people more reason to stick with those franchises if they haven't already stuck with them. I mean, does that necessarily mean it's going to take away from the player base of Fortnite or PUBG? No, obviously not, because those games have a hardcore fan base as of right now. Those are the games that kind of started that genre or style of game at the current moment. But you're going to hear more about this, I'm pretty sure, at E3, that there's probably going to be talked about in trailers whenever they finally reveal those games, in their entirety.
Yeah. Like my thing is, I think, I like the battle royale stuff, because I enjoyed PUBG when I played it. I haven't got to Fortnite yet, but I'm sure, someone's gonna pull me in at some point. But like my thing is, there's like so many games trying to do that now. Like you had the Radical Heights, the Cliffy B studio, they put out theirs last week. The Darwin game is coming out as well. I feel like gamers are going to get battle royale burnout before these games even come out, because these
You think it's going to get fast though? Do you think that's really going to be that fast at the current moment? Because I feel like after these, then maybe afterwards with other companies. Because keep in mind, Radical Heights is doing that technically right now, or at least they're going to be doing that at some point soon. So that's another game that's having that type of style.
Yep, that game is already out as well.
So there you go.
And the Darwin game is coming out fairly soon. And also, there's rumors that Red Dead is going to have battle royale. So it's like,
well, Red Dead seems a little bit more random to me, but then again, I can understand that too because of Grand Theft Auto Online. And Grand Theft Auto Online, I feel like they have a lot of room to kind of do that type of stuff, especially, taking place in those large cities or large environments. So to me, that makes more sense, more so than maybe Call of Duty and Battlefield to an extent. But even so, I can still see your point, though. Maybe after those releases come out, then you'll see people start to complain about burnout with that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I will say one thing though, in terms of presentation, because we've come accustomed to, seeing a certain standard from Call of Duty and Battlefield games. Like these are highly polished games. They usually look very good. They run very well most of the time. I mean, sometimes there's problems with netcode, and there was some issues with Battlefield 4 when it first came out. But in terms of presentation and style and everything, these games are usually spot on. So I will say that these could be some of the best looking battle royale games on the market when they release, because PUBG is, people complain about its art style and everything and the glitches.
I could agree with that, definitely.
And and Fortnite has its own distinct style, so it works for what it is and everything. But the casual market are probably going to want the nice, fancy, realistic graphics. So they have that advantage, with Call of Duty and Battlefield. And one more thing as well. There was actually, and this isn't confirmed by the way, but apparently Call of Duty, the Battle Royale mode, will be on the Nintendo Switch. And I wanted to ask you, because I don't think there's any Battle Royale experience on there currently. So do you think this is a good way to expose the Switch audience to Battle Royale?
If it's true, yeah, I think that's good. And I believe you're right. There's no game right now on the Switch's library that offers that style of game. So this would be a good idea for Activision to have that, to have their game that does that same style on all platforms. I mean, obviously, I don't think they're going to be on mobile, like on iOS devices and stuff, like what PUBG is at the current moment. But being on all the major platforms, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch, I think that'll work good for them. And I also agree with you at the same time that it'll be the most realistic looking style for that type of game. So, I mean, again, it works a lot in Activision's favor.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really interested in seeing how they're going to balance things and everything. And, in terms of weapons, how all that stuff's going to work. Hopefully, like you mentioned, the launch event is happening soon. So I hope we get more details when that goes down. I think that's in May, right? I think that's happening next month or sometime.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I know that eventually we're going to get very similar, because Activision always does this with their games. Like they did it for Destiny. They did it also with the previous Call of Duty as well. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, yeah, the reveal event is May 17th. Thanks, Morham.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so the main question I had, in the title for the show today, is, thinking back to Call of Duty and Battlefield and how important they were last generation. Like they really they really were the pinnacle of the PS3 and the Xbox 360 era. Like those IPs really shined throughout that generation, and they're still flourishing now. You know, they're still doing pretty well now, even. But you know, my question was, are they starting to run out of ideas a little bit? Because I mean, in terms of storytelling and you know, the wars they can go to, it's pretty much all been done. You know, all the concepts, all the you know the actual wars that they kind of focus on, it's all been done. So do you think they're getting to a point where they're getting stale and they're actually running out of ideas for these games?
Honestly, I think that's just inherent of the genre that they're part of. I think, like I said earlier, and I think I've said it a couple times throughout the years, that really Call of Duty, the only real direction they could go to since modern warfare or realistic warfare has been done to death is to go fantastical, is to go more fantasy route or to go futuristic, kind of like what they did with Infinite Warfare. And I think that worked to its benefit in some regards, in others not so much, you know, depending on who you ask. I could say that for both Call of Duty and Battlefield. Battlefields went to more Battlefield 1, so they went to World War One, so they kind of went backwards, which Call of Duty has done plenty of times with like World War II or even, you know, the Korean War and other wars outside of like, you know, traditional stuff that we've known. So it does feel fresh whenever it happens, like in that moment. But I say that now at this point, they have to go more fantasy and, you know, really kind of take the idea and the themes of Call of Duty and apply them so that way it could still feel like the same type of franchise rather than revisiting and reorganizing and reevaluating the same stuff that they've done throughout the years. Because granted, and it's been proven with numbers and releases throughout the years that even though a lot of us in the industry and in the know, we complain about Call of Duty getting stale, and same thing with Battlefield to an extent and other franchises too, but clearly consumers don't really care as much, or even people that aren't so vocal on Twitter because they're still buying. They're still, you know, applying their time, you know, their game time on their consoles to play these franchises, even though we feel like they're not really doing much to be different or to really be special anymore. However, I feel like maybe at some point, maybe after all this PUBG style type of things, you know, are implemented into this year's release or these upcoming releases for these franchises, maybe afterwards they do exactly like what I said, go more fantasy. But who knows? We'll find out probably soon enough.
Yeah, interesting that you said fantasy. I like that.
Now, let me make it clear though, because I don't mean fantasy like Skyrim. I'm not saying like, you know, it becomes like a Middle Earth style Call of Duty, even though that does sound a little crazy. And maybe somebody at Activision, you're welcome for that idea. However, I still feel like when I say fantasy, I mean go more unrealistic, go more futuristic. Because remember, we had space battles, we had laser guns, we had other stuff in Infinite Warfare. Why can't that same type of approach and process be applied to other fantastical elements of what warfare could actually be for both Call of Duty and Battlefields, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Damn, what was I going to ask? I was going to say something.
About Call of Duty, about Battlefields, about fantasy warfare, about staleness.
Yeah, there was something I was going to say, but now I forgot.
All I'm saying is though, I don't think people are going to get burnt out right away though. In my personal opinion, I think like kind of like what you were saying, maybe after these games implement this, then anything that comes out after that, like what if Ubisoft releases, you know, stuff after the Division that does something similar, then I feel like people will get burnt out.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now I remember. You know what? So my question was going to be like, do you think that we'll ever get to a point where, I mean, Battlefield already releases, you know, like every 2 years or every, you know, few years or so. But do you think we'll get to a point where Activision will slow things down for Call of Duty and start coming out, you know, every other year, like 2 year cycle kind of thing, just so that they can
honestly
reinvent the game?
The simple answer is no, because they have multiple studios working on multiple Call of Duty games. So that's what, you know, one studio will take like 2 or 3 years to do their game, but they still have other studios to release within the subsequent year. I think that's done on purpose because that has shown to be profitable for Activision. Granted, you know, again, we complain about a number of different things and we criticize them for a number of different things, but clearly that seems to be working. Clearly there are still people, many people, a lot of people on all platforms that are still buying. So I don't see them slowing that down at any time soon. It's like almost coming out and saying, like, are they going to really stop doing the Skylander stuff? Granted, we're going to get the Spyro remake sometime soon, but I don't think they're going to stop that anytime soon because people still buy them. You could still go to the store and find the Skylanders for like $20+ a figure like that. So if it's profitable, why would they change it?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see why they wouldn't business wise, because you know it's like guaranteed money for them every year. But I do think it's
Big
necessary.
money. Let's make it claro. Big money for them every year.
Yeah, big money, definitely. Like I'm sure that makes up a large part of their, you know, financial intake for the year. But I do think it's necessary to just kind of take a little step back, kind of like what Assassin's Creed did, just to kind of reevaluate and come up with some, you know, reinvent the game and the experience and stuff. But yeah, they're not going to do that because business wise, it won't make sense for them because they want that money. But yeah, I think they are really in danger of running stale, and I'm really interested to see how this game is going to perform, you know, without the single player mode. So that's something to
Like I
look
said,
for.
it's a damn shame. I love playing through them, even though they might not be the best. I still think that they're enjoyable and they're highly produced very well. Like there's a lot of good production value that goes into them, especially polish and shine and a lot of different things. For all the complaints that we give and a lot of other people give on social media, you have to admit those campaigns are still well produced.
Yeah, indeed. They were definitely like they were like movies, man. Like they were really well done.
Straight up.
But yeah, that's the main topic for today. Definitely a short show. Was there anything else you wanted to address specifically before we end off?
Not much, but I'll reiterate a couple things, and this could be kind of part of my shout outs and stuff and everything else. But basically, like I mentioned earlier in the show, we have a lot of great content coming down the pipeline. Obviously, we're about a month and change out from E3, a little bit more. So we're going to be at E3, which is going to be dope because we're going to be out there covering everything that goes down with the show, the conferences, and all the crazy stuff that's happening. So obviously, look forward to that stuff in June. But as far as like more recent, like, you know, coming very, very soon down the pipeline, we got, again, new interviews, new TK Spotlight stuff that I have planned. Again, game director stuff for upcoming new releases, some new guests that we're going to be chatting it up with, new unboxing and impression stuff that we have, hopefully happening this week or next week that you guys can look forward to, both on the website and the YouTube channel. And another thing, Gary, that I think we should tell everybody, we're getting close to 3K subscribers on our YouTube channel. And we've
Yeah.
been working our butts off, not just me, but you, Rich, and everybody else on the website has been posting up a lot of content. So we highly encourage you guys, if you're listening to this on YouTube or listening to this afterwards on the website, you know, check out our YouTube channel, spread word about it, share it around, tell people to subscribe if you can, because we want to be able to get more subs so we can do more crazy stuff. We want to be able to do more amazing stuff and bring more great content for you guys. Not too long ago, when I was at PAX, we got a big shout out from one of my guests that I had on TK Spotlight, which we all really appreciated. Big shout outs to Rich from Review Tech USA for showing us some love. But you know, even though we get little things like that, we're still out here, you know, still trying to show the world what we're doing. So hopefully you guys, you know, that are our big fans, that are our big supporters, we thank you. Hopefully you guys could show us a little bit more love and tell other people to check us out, because we're trying to be out here and bring you guys the best gaming content that we can out here.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, just to end it off before I get to shout outs and everything from our Patreon supporters and stuff. I do want to let you guys know that once, you know, me and Richard get more into God of War and perhaps even beat the game, we are going to be doing a God of War discussion specifically. It's going to come out on Patreon first, and then, you know, it will come out on the YouTube afterwards as well. But definitely look out for that sometime, you know, within the next week or so. Also, we're gonna be trying to put out a lot more content in May on the Patreon. So there's going to be a lot of like exclusive stuff that we're trying to do for the Patreon in May, on the lead up to E3 and everything. And you know, we are planning our E3 trip very thoroughly at the moment and everything. So we're very focused on that. Because of that, there's not going to be a giveaway in May, but we are going to be giving a lot of extra content in May, you know, to make up for that. And yeah, definitely let us know if there's anything in particular you want to see. You know, our Patreon people, we put up posts there so you guys can suggest what things that you want us to talk about. We do have some content planned that we do want to put out there, but you're free to also let us know things that you want us to discuss, both on the co-op podcast, on turn-based, or, you know, just as a standalone discussion. You know, we're going to definitely try and amp up on that within the next month or so. And let's get straight into the Patreon shout outs. So big shouts to M. Collins, Sean Gority, Stephen Ferron, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Miguel, and our new Patreon is Antonio Rogers. So thank you for subscribing. Definitely, I hope you enjoy all the new content that we're going to be putting out and everything. And we thank you for all of your support. It goes a long way. Definitely helps for our E3 trips and everything like that. And big shouts to everyone who joined us in the chat today. Moreham, Ruthless Kid, saw them in there. And thanks for, interacting with us throughout the show and everything. Hopefully we'll have the full cast back next week. Of course, Richard is away, Dana's away, and Max is, working hard and everything.
Everybody's busy.
Yeah, exactly. So look out for, full cast next week, hopefully. But that's it for us today. So thank you for tuning in, and peace out, everyone. Enjoy your Sunday.
Later, people. Take it easy.